Greetings, I am Michelle P. Espeleta from BSIT 41E2, and I will be discussing about intellectual property code. So first, I will share the PowerPoint. There we go. So there you will see the PowerPoint right now. So on the next slide is the overview of the topic I am going to discuss. So first, I will talk about what is intellectual property. Next is why is intellectual property needed. The third one is what does intellectual property law protect and how can intellectual property be violated. And under that, I will show examples of intellectual property being violated. And lastly, I will talk about the Republic Act number 8293, and under that, our laws repealed, intellectual property rights under the IP Code, and penalties for infringement. So next, what is intellectual property? So intellectual property refers to the creation of the mind, such as inventions, literary and artistic works, designs, and symbols, names, and images used in commerce. So it is protected in law, which enable people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create. By striking the right balance between the interests of innovators and the wider public interest, the IP system aims to foster an environment in which creativity and innovation can flourish. So in short, IP or intellectual property is the inventions or creations of innovators and artists that is protected by law. So next, why is intellectual property needed? So intellectual property is important in order to protect their own unique and incomparable creations and ideas from unfair competition. And through intellectual property, they can protect all distinctive creations as well as all those that provide an economic benefit. So to elaborate, intellectual property or IP is needed especially for creators to protect their work from getting plagiarized by others. And without protection of ideas, businesses and individuals would not reap full benefits of their inventions and would focus less on research and development. So in Filipino or Tagalog, kailangan ng creators, ng inventors, mga artists, yung IP or intellectual property para maprotektahan nila yung gawa nila. Lalo na kung publicly nilang in-announce yung gawa nila. Kung wala silang IP, may chances na may competition sila, maagaw sa kanila yung idea or yung invention nila. So next, see. Okay. What does intellectual property law protect? So, dyan meron siyang apat na pinaprotektahan. First is yung copyright, sunod yung patents, third is trade secrets, and fourth yung trademarks. So, copyright is a collection of rights that automatically vest to someone who creates an original work of authorship like literary work, song, movie, or software. These rights include the right to produce the work, to prepare derivative works, to distribute copies, and to perform and display the work publicly. So, sa copyrights din yung mga books, yung mga music, yung choreograph, mga movies, and art. So next is yung patent. So patents is an exclusive right granted for an invention, which is a product or a process that provides, in general, a new way of doing something or offers a new technical solution to a problem. So ayun yung mga inventions na nakakatulong sa mga tao, parang mapadali yung buhay nila. Tulad na lang nung C-pen or yung pen with scanner na in-invent ni Christopher Farius, yung breastfeeding shirts na ginawa ni Mia Seyfel, and yung steel kidneys ni Niels Alwall. So, dyan, katulad ng breastfeeding shirts ni Mia Seyfel, mas mapapadali yung mga breastfeeding mothers. And kailangan may patent yun para maprotektahan yung gawa niya. Kasi pwede yung gayahin ng iba. Yeah. So, ang third is yung trade secrets. Trade secrets are intellectual property rights on confidential information which may be sold or licensed in general to qualify as a trade secret, the information must be commercially valuable because it is a secret, be known only to a limited group of persons, and be subject to reasonable steps taken by the rightful holder of the information to keep it secret, including the use of confidentiality agreements for business partners and employees. So, sa trade secret naman, ayan yung mga kailangan nilang protektahan sa mga businesses or sa mga big companies. And konti lang yung kailangan makaalam nun, lalo na pag business partner ka or employee ka. And pag reveal yun, pwedeng makasuhan. So lastly, yung trademarks. Trademark is a sign capable of distinguishing the goods or services of one enterprise from those of other enterprises. So itong trademark, nakikita natin lagi yan, which is yung kilala natin. Yung McDonald's, Nike, yung Apple, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Adidas, and many more. So, pag may gumaya niyan, pwede nilang isue yung gumaya nun, lalo na yung mga nagkakalat dati na Louis Vuitton, yung Chanel na designs. So, trademark yun. So, next, how can intellectual property be violated? So, violating intellectual property may happen accidentally or purposefully for some specific gain. Some of the most common violations are infringement of patent, trademark, or copyright rights. So, ayan yung sinasabi kanina na, di ba, yung Chanel, yung mga Louis Vuitton, yung gumagaya ng trademark na yon, which is, nire-reproduce nila kahit wala silang permission na gamitin yun. Next is yung counterfeiting of copyrights or trademarks. Ayun, tulad lang din na sinabi ko kanina. And lastly, yung misappropriating trade secrets. Ayan yung mga pagkakaalam ko or pagkakaintindi ko. Yung, di ba may mga workers na, lalo na sa mga restaurant or fast food chains, nag-work sila doon, tapos pag alis nila, kinuha nila yung recipes na hindi talaga linalabas ng mismong restaurant na yun or fast food chain na yun. And since linabas nila yun, kumalat. And marami nakakaalam. So, imbes na lang, puntahan nila yung mismo store na yun, yung mga tao, ginagawa na lang nila sa sarili ng bahay. Kasi kumalat na. May nag-post na former employee. Ayan. Next naman yung examples of intellectual property being violated. So yung una is yung by using a name, logo, or product that has already been patented in order to profit by making others believe their product, name, or logo is the same as the original one. So yan, example doon sa picture, yung Nike na brand, maraming gumagaya niyan, pero iba yung spelling, iba yung design. Pero katulad pa rin. Kasi diba may check na gano'n. Katulad ng picture. Mickey, Nike, gano'n. Maraming ganyan, lalo na dito sa Philippines. Next, by making copies of musical recordings or other media without authorization and distributing them for profit. So yan, lalo na ulit dito sa Pilipinas. Maraming pirated na CDs, DVDs, mapakanta, mapa-movies, mapa-cartoons pa yan, mapa-anime na episodes. Marami ang pirated na CDs, katulad ng picture na pinapakita. Next, by manufacturing items according to what is spelled out in a patent without having a license from the owner to do so. Excuse me. So, ayan, may mga iba, lalo na sa China, marami nagpa-manufacture ng items na hindi naman talaga sila binigyan ng permission para gawin yun. Pero, binibenta pa rin lang, gumagawa sila ng parang imitation. Which is, akala mo original siya, yun pala. Hindi. Next is by engaging in corporate espionage to find out competitors or others' secret. So, ayan, may yung mga espiya or spy na sinasabi nila sa ibang company para malaman yung ginagawa ng kalaban nila. For example, lalo na pag may competition silang dalawa, may isang employee na ipapasok nila doon sa company na kalaban nila para malaman kung ano yung plano, yung sekreto na ginagawa nila para magaya. So, yan. So, violation yan. And lastly, by producing a good or service in the belief that these have been patented when in fact they have not been and they are actually copies of someone else's patent. So, ito, tulad sa example ng picture, maraming mga premium copies na cellphones, which is makikita kadalasan sa mga marketplace, lalo sa Facebook, makikita. Premium copy, magugulat ka, yan, 12 Pro Max na iPhone, sobrang mura. Like, bakit di ba original price around 50K to 100K yung ranging, pero magugulat ka parang bakit 10K na lang 5K. So, yan, mga premium copies yan, ginagaya nila, pero hindi yan original. So, what are the remedies can be included in an intellectual property dispute? So, ito yung mga pwedeng gawin. Ito yung mga remedies na gagawin pag dispute yung intellectual property. So, first, yung confiscation of property that was used to create the infringing product. So, dyan, i-confiscate nila yung mga gamit nila. Kung ano yung panggawa nila ng mga pinegay nila. Sunod is yung cease and desist orders in case of unauthorized use of trademarks. Diyan yung ipapatigil na nila yung pag-manufacture o yung pagbenta o paggawa ng mga ginaya nila. Dahil na yung isang issue dati sa Divisoria, share ko lang na yung Louis Vuitton or Chanel na logo, diba, laging kalat na kalat yun sa mga tela, sa mga cover kama, punda, basta lahat sa mga bags, dinalagay yung design sa wallets, kahit hindi siya talagang original. So, pinatigil yon dahil nababiolate yung owner or yung gumawa nung logo na yon. So, lastly, monetary damages to compensate for losses. So, ayan. Ayan yung overview ng ayan yung intellectual property discuss. So, next na i-discuss ko is yung sa Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. So, dito na ngayon sa Pilipinas. So, ayan. Republic Act number 8293. So, an act prescribing the Intellectual Property Code and establishing the Intellectual Property Office, providing for its powers and functions, and for other purposes, otherwise known as the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. So, ayan yung law dito sa Pilipinas. So, ito yung state declaration. The state recognizes that an effective intellectual and industrial property system is vital to the development of domestic and creative activity, facilitates transfer of technology, attracts foreign investments, and ensures market access for our products. It shall protect and secure the exclusive rights of scientists, inventors, artists, and other gifted citizens to their intellectual property and creations, particularly when beneficial to the people for such fair use as provided in this act. The use of intellectual property bears a social function. To this end, the state shall promote the diffusion of knowledge and information for the promotion of national development and progress and the common good. It is also the policy of the state to streamline administrative procedures of registering patents, trademarks, and copyright, to liberalize the registration on the transfer of technology, and to enhance the enforcement of intellectual property rights in the Philippines. So, ayan. So, sunod naman is yung mga laws repealed or yung Republic Act number 8293 repealed all acts and parts of acts inconsistent therewith, more particularly And Republic Act number 165, an act creating a patent office, prescribing its powers and duties, regulating the issuance of patents, and appropriating funds therefore. Sunod is yung Republic Act number 166, an act to provide for the registration and protection of trademarks, trade names, and service marks, defining unfair competition and false marking, and providing remedies against the same and for other purposes. Next is Presidential Decree number 49, Decree on the Protection of Intellectual Property, and according to the Official Gazette, no copy shall subsist in any work of the government of the Philippines. However, prior approval of the government agency or office wherein the work is created shall be necessary for exploitation of such work for profit. Such agency or office may, among other things, impose as condition the payment of royalties. Ang apat is yung Presidential Decree number 205, Decree on the Protection of Intellectual Property, or authorizing the compulsory licensing or printing of educational, scientific, or cultural books and materials as a temporary or emergency measure whenever the prices thereof become so exorbitant as to be detrimental to the national interest. And lastly, yung Articles 188 and 189 of the Revised Penal Code of the Philippines. Sunod naman yung intellectual property rights under the IP Code or Intellectual Property Code. So first is the intellectual property rights under the Intellectual Property Code are as follows: copyright and related rights, trademarks and service marks, geographic indications, industrial designs, patents, layout designs, or topographies of integrated circuits, and protection of undisclosed information. So lastly is yung penalties for infringement. So na-change yan according dun sa Official Gazette. Ito, send ko na lang or post ko na lang yung link kung saan nanggaling yung information. So first offenders, yung fine is 50,000 Philippine peso to 150,000 Philippine peso and or imprisonment of 1 to 3 years. Pag second offenders naman, fine of 150,000 to 500,000 Philippine peso and or imprisonment to 3 to 6 years. And for third and subsequent offenders, fine of 500,000 to 1.5 million and or imprisonment to 6 to 9 years. And in case of insolvency, the offender shall furthermore suffer subsidiary imprisonment. So yung insolvency, yun yung state of financial distress in which a business or person is unable to pay their bills. In Tagalog, insolvency is pag hindi na mabayaran yung utang or yung hindi naman sa utang, yung fine na binigay. So either ma-imprison sila in a set years na ibibigay or kung meron silang property na kasi yung same amount nung fine na binigay sa kanila, yun yung kanilang i-turn over kung ayaw nilang makulong. So, ayun po yung end ng presentation ko. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening about my topic, Intellectual Property Code. So sana may naintindihan naman kayo kahit papagod-pagod yung pagsasalita ko. Thank you ulit and goodbye.